Today we are going to learn how to make a map navigation system for your game. The idea is once we hover over a certain section that we want to go into and click, it will bring us into that room. We'll also have a back button which will bring us back into the map. In this course we will be going over screens which are super useful in Renpy. One of the examples for screens that I'm currently using is this map navigation system for my game, and also having a screen for being able to talk to someone, give gifts or go on dates, as well as an inventory system. So screens are super useful, super handy, so let's get into it. So what you want to do is you want to open up an image of your choice. I've just picked this random one here. It was AI generated, but don't use AI generated images in your actual game. This is just for the sake of the tutorial. You can download this in the description below, just so you can learn how to do this yourself. What you want to do if you pull an image that isn't to size, as the first thing we want to do is resize this image. So specifically I'm using GIMP. What you want to do is go up to image, come down to scale your image, and Renpy uses 1920 by 1080. If you notice, this will always try and match it, so unclick this link, 1920 by 1080, and click scale. So now our image is scaled up. Doesn't look the best, but this is only a placeholder. The next thing that we want to do is we have our map done, but we want to create two images that are going to be like hover images. So to do that, we're going to create a new layer down here at the bottom right. We'll call this OR1 for room 1. And then I've picked this yellow color. It's very bright in your face. And I'm going to draw over the first room. So that's going to be this one here. You can just kind of haphazardly draw it for the sake of learning. We want to color this in here. When you're done with room 1, let's just go ahead and do room 2. I'm only going to be doing 2 rooms, but you can fill them all in at this stage. That's what you want to do. Now, they're both done. What I like to do is I'm going to right click on this layer. I'm going to scroll up to edit layer attributes. And I'm going to bring down the opacity here to 50 and click OK. So what that's done now is it's created a nice effect where I can still see the house. So when I hover over it, it will show a highlighted effect. I'm going to go, that was edit layer attributes, set it to 50. I'm going to do the same thing to the other room. Now my main map is done and my 2 houses are also highlighted and finished. I'm going to create one last one, which is the button. One last image. So this is going to be my button. Let's make it purple. And I'm just going to do this. Just a little circle here. And I'm going to do an arrow, which is going to be in white. Okay, bring that size down a little bit. And be like this. Okay. That's my button. Again, what I'm actually going to do this time, I'm going to duplicate this layer. So that's the same image here, but what we're going to do is we're going to have a highlighted effect again. Let me think, how do I want this to be highlighted? Maybe I'll take this, instead of this purple, we'll make it a lighter purple. Okay, and I'm going to fill this in a lighter purple. So when it is highlighted, it's going to show like that. So I like that. So there's different ways of highlighting an image. You can kind of pick whichever one suits you. We're about to do some hacky things. So I recommend when you're at this stage and everything, you've got all of your buttons and all your different highlighted sections, you're going to hit File and Save as Medieval Map Backup. Right? We're going to have a backup saved in whether it's Photoshop or GIMP, because what we're actually going to do is we're going to start cropping. You know, and you might accidentally hit save at a certain part and you've accidentally cropped out your whole image. So make sure you have a backup file just to get back to this state. So the next thing that you want to do after you have all of your images and all your different layers finished is you want to start exporting them. So let's ignore all of our smaller buttons and focus on the main map that we have here. This is a perfect size. We've got 1920 by 1080, so we're just going to export this as is. Remember to hit export as. We want to separate these. Okay, so we're going to export this as a PNG, and you can keep all of the all of the settings the same way that they are. The next thing that we need to do, we have room 1. Now with room 1, we don't want it to be 1920 by 1080. That's the current size of this, right? That's the whole map there. This won't work as an image button because if we click anywhere, it is going to select as the image button. We only want this section here. Now we want to get this OR1 image by itself. We're going to navigate up here to the rectangle select tool. I'm going to have it select here and align it so that it fits all edges. We're going to go up to image, crop to selection, and we are going to export this as OR1 underscore hover. Click export, keep everything the same, and we're done with that. The next thing that we want is the idle state. We want our idle state to be completely empty, so we're going to go up, click the eraser tool, and we are just going to erase what we have. Get that brush size to be huge, get rid of everything. We want to keep our translucent background, and we're going to export this as OR1 underscore idle. We're going to do the exact same 2 steps for OR2, but before we do that, remember, edit, undo the eraser, go all the way back to have our full image. I'm going to repeat the same thing for OR2. Now that we are completely finished with OR1 and OR2, we're going to move on to the buttons. We're going to hit the select, hit this button, make sure it's cropped, and we're going to say image, crop to selection, file, export as, call this button idle. This is our idle state of the button. Export. Button hover, we're going to export that. Export. Edit. Undo item viz. I keep going back till we've got that crop. So everything is done. Now what you want to do once you have all of your images, we're going to hit create new project, hit continue. I'm just going to be calling this map nav, and we're going to hit continue. 1920 by 1080 is the specific resolution that I use, and I've scaled the images to that. You can use the other ones, make sure you scale those images. Hit continue, doesn't matter what color, and we're going to start creating a new project here. Once you have created your map navigation project, go down to open directory and click on images. So right now this folder is empty and we're going to fill it up with the images that we created. Now I have 2 extra ones, which are BG Room 1 and BG Room 2. I've also renamed the map to BG Map. Renpy does like certain types of naming conventions, so that's why I've kept it this way, as well as button hover, button idle, OR1 hover, OR1 idle, OR2 hover, OR2 idle. Don't worry that these 2 are completely empty and blank. That's the way that we want it to be. So move them on over and then we can get started on programming this in. Now that we've created our project, let's hit the script.rpy to start our programming. So if we go into file, I want to actually hit open folder, navigate towards your game. It should open up already, the game folder here, select folder. That'll bring up all of your script files on the left hand side, which is the way that I like to work. So my script file is empty, yours should have some stuff in it, so go ahead and just get rid of everything here. So the game starts here. This is where all the programming and magic starts. So let's have a label and let's call it start. What we want to do is we want to create a few script files. This is just the way that I like to program. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit room1.rpy and then we're going to create room2.rpy. These are going to be our 2 rooms that we're going to navigate into, or our 2 houses. So let's call this label room 1, and we're going to have a scene. We're going to use BG room 1, and we're going to have welcome to room 1. Let's copy that, go into room 2, and just swap that, change that over to the number 2 for everything. So those are our 2 rooms completely set up. Let's hit save all for that. What we actually want is a map file. So we're going to use what is called screens. And screens act as a layer on top of your labels or on top of your visual novels to add image buttons and add that interactive gameplay. So right here you can see that Renpy has a thing already called screens.rpy. We're going to create our own custom screens. So call this my screens.rpy. Very important that you have this rpy and hit enter. Okay, we're going to have label. We're going to call this my screens. Let's just have it empty for now. I'm going to hit save all. And we are going to have our first screen, which we are going to call the map screen. We're going to add our image, which is going to be bgmap. bgmap.png. And then we are going to add in the image buttons. So to add an image button, let me just comment this and say that it is for room 1. We have image button. And make sure this is indented. We're going to have an X position. Let's make this 500. And we're going to have a Y position. That's me. That's my Python coming through. Forget about that. Just have 500, 500 for both. And we're going to have idle. We're going to have room 1. Now, stay with me here. Our idle is actually completely empty, so we won't be able to see anything. So we're actually going to use the hover just for testing purposes. .png. Just for testing purposes, so we can actually see where this is and if it is aligned correctly. Now, we want to double check that we've actually called this in the first place. So we have map screen, and in our script we haven't called anything yet, so we're going to instantly call screen map screen. That's the first thing that we're going to do when the game starts up. So let's test this and see if it works. Okay, so the first thing it's done is it's called the map screen. We have our image that's showing up here, and then we also do have our idle image for room 1 showing up. Now when we click it, nothing happens, but that's because we haven't added anything in yet. So let's get this aligned properly. Now you're probably thinking, how do I get this aligned? I have no idea what the X position and the Y position is. What can actually help us is our image that we created before. So let's open all of this up. We have room 1 right here. Let me get into a select tool. So if we select this here, you can see over here, if I hover my mouse and I look down at the bottom left, so look at this section here, you can see that it says 100, 640. So 108, 640. So let's test that, see if it works. 108, 640. Okay, let's close this for now. Sure we want to quit? Yes. And go back into my screens. 108, 640. Let's hit save. Launch our project. Okay, so now that we've refreshed our project, yes, it is in the right position. So that's good. Now what we want to do is we want to add our hover and we want to add an action to it. Let's go back into our code. So let's go back into our code here. So now let's actually have it as the idle. So it'll be completely empty. And we're going to have our hover. Our hover is or1 hover. .png. Get rid of that comment there. Just so you know, if you try and run it now, your code won't work because this requires an action. So if at this point you're going, it's not working for me, you have to put in this action here. So what we're going to do is we're going to have this, once you click it, you are going to jump to room 1. So the label is called room 1. So let's have room 1. File, save all. Let's go back. What you can do is you can hit Shift and or to refresh this, reload your script. Now, hover, there we go. It's working when we hover over it, and when we click it, welcome to room 1. Okay, now I'm going to fast forward and do the same thing for room 2. Okay, so now we have room 1 hovered and room 2 works when it's hovered. So let's check room 2. Welcome to room 2. What we notice here when we're in welcome to room 2 is we actually can't get back to the map. And that's what the buttons were for. Now I had the button here as if we're in the map using it, but what we're actually using it for is here. When we go into the room, we can have a chat with people, but we can go back to the map. So here's how we're going to do it. What we can do is we could call a screen and call it back button and put it into room 1, and we can put it into room 2. But it's going to be the same button, it's going to have the same function, so let's call it once and let's have room 1 and room 2 grab it. So we're going to go into my screens, so let's make sure we comment everything in. We'll say map. But this time we're going to have a screen for back button. We're going to call it screen back button. It won't have an image background to it because it's just solo. Let's copy and paste these image buttons because I don't want to keep writing stuff the same way out. Back button. Now the exposition, let's just put them both at 100 for now. We are going to use the button idle, button hover, and we're just going to leave this action blank for the second. Remember that if we don't have this in, it won't work. So for the back button, room 1 needs 1. So we're going to have this, but we're also going to call screen, and it is called back button. Okay, and then we are also going to do that in room 2. We're going to call that screen. It also means that any changes that we make to the back button, we only have to do it once. Okay, so let's see. Just for the sake of it working, let's have it go to room 1, and let's hit reload here. Okay, so let's make sure we go into room 2. Welcome to room 2. So here's our button, and when we click it, you see the hover already works. When we click it, it should bring us back to room 1, and that's what it does here. Now this will also bring us back to room 1. That's not what we want. We want it to bring us back to the map. Now, if we try to write map screen or screen map screen, it's not going to work because action jump requires you to put in a label. So best practice, in my opinion, is to make another RPY file, call it map.rpy, and its main function is, we've got label map, and what it does is you call screen map screen. Okay, so what that's going to do, call map screen inside of my screens, and it'll call this screen so that when we need to go to a label, we're going here to the map, and that will work. The reason why, another way you can do it is you can call it back to script to label start, because that's where you call screen map screen, but it's not good practice to do that. It's just much better to have a map here. Another thing that you can do if you have a label map is you can add specific sounds that happen when you're going into a map, or a fade or an effect. So just keep everything neat and tidy. Let's go give this a run, launch project. And let's see, we go into room 1, welcome to room 1, there's our button, and we're back to the map. Go to room 2, welcome to room 2, and we go back to the map. And that is the project finished. If this tutorial was very helpful for you, I would like to make more tutorials in the future, so please leave a like and subscribe. Using screens is super helpful in your game. It means that you can make the UI even bigger and grander. This is an example of some screens that I'm using in my current game, so you can see that you can hover over different things. I have a screen showing variables for HP money and the amount of days left. There's different skills, objectives that you can open up, and different ways that you can use it. So let me know if you're interested, because I also have other tutorials that I could make, such as this screen here where you can talk to the person or you can give a gift, and it's just really cool. So screens are super helpful in games design. Let me know if you would be interested in learning how this certain screens work. But thank you very much for your time today. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.